I saw a video recently about an experiment called rat park. If you get a rat and put it in a cage and get 2 water bottles, one of which contains just water and another one which contains water but laced with a drug called morphine, the rat will almost always prefer the one laced with the drug and end up killing itself. In the 70s then, Professor Bruce Alexander, a psychologist, comes along, and instead of putting the rats in a small cramped cage, he and his co-investigators constructed a place called rat park for these white Worcester lab rats. And in this space, he decorated it so well. The temperature was right, the color was bright, it had colors of deciduous trees, mountains ribboned with roads and studded with tiny trees, creeks even flowing over with smooth stones. So it was just perfect for them. They had a special space for birthing, room to roam, they had ample space for mating. It was heaven on earth for this rat. Now these investigators put 16 lab rats into this fancy rat park, and then they kept another 16 in the standard laboratory cages where space was cramped and isolation was extreme. Now because morphine is bitter and rats hate bitterness like most of us do, the researchers gave both sets of rats morphine laced water sprinkled with sucrose. At first, it was just a little sucrose that was added, but as time went by, more and more sucrose was added till the bitterness wasn't tasted anymore. So it became a very sugary, irresistible delight. Now to both sets of rats, they also gave plain old tap water, which by the time is looked at in comparison with the stocked glowing bottles, the tap water would be looking grey and filmy. And this is what they found. The cramped and isolated caged rats loved the morphine laced water right from its subtle sugary start, flopping it up. The rat park residents, however, resisted drinking the narcotic solution, no matter how sweet the researchers made it. While they did occasionally imbibe, they consistently showed preference for the straight tap water. And when these two groups were compared, the caged isolated rat drank up to 16 times more than the park residents, clearly a finding statistical significance. And this poses a question. What if addiction is about your cage, my cage, our cage, and the opposite of addiction that arises from drug abuse is simply connection? Greetings everyone, I am pharmacist Benita Dimpka, and today we'll be talking about the effects of drug abuse, and we'll be drawing lessons from rat park theory that we just talked about. Over 3 million annual deaths are due to alcohol and drug use, with 2.6 million deaths attributed to alcohol consumption and 0.6 million deaths attributed to psychoactive drug use globally. This was gotten from a research done in 2018 by the World Health Organization. In Nigeria alone, Nigeria has 469,690 people with drug use disorders, and this translates to 198 cases per 100,000 people. This was a report given in 2020. These staggering statistics are not just numbers, but they are lives of people, lives of loved ones, and they highlight the urgent need to address drug abuse. Drug abuse refers to the misuse of substances leading to physical, emotional, or social harm. It can involve illegal drugs, prescription medications, or other substances, and can have serious consequences on an individual's life. And one of the deadening effects of drug abuse is addiction. And this is seen in its definition as a chronic relapsing disorder characterized by compulsive drug seeking and use despite adverse consequences. So you find out that it is chronic because it goes gradually till it gets to a point of, in quotes, no return, and it has a relapsing order. So even when the sufferer is seeking help, there is a tendency to always go back because of the compulsion to seek the drug, irrespective of the negative effects that the person suffers from. Drug abuse has severe physical, emotional, and social consequences. But with all these things we've heard, the most important thing that we need to go home with today is that recovery is possible with the right support and, of course, resources. Let's look at the consequences. We're looking at them in 3 different headings: physical, emotional, and social. Drug abuse can lead to serious health problems, including overdose, organ damage, and of course increased risk of infections. And this is because all drugs are poisons. The difference now is the dose. So taking a particular drug above the recommended dosage level can lead to it's becoming more poisonous than it already is. And this is also because you start over-laboring the excretory organs of the body, such as the liver and the kidney, which help to detoxify substances like that when they are taken into the body. But because they are above the load that the body can carry, the body starts prioritizing other things to excrete, keeping those toxic substances packed in the body, leading to, of course, serious health damages. And then these health damages can, of course, cause cardiovascular diseases, respiratory problems, liver damage. It could go on and on and on. One thing we need to know is that in our heads, we have a pharmacology factory. We have chemicals called endorphins, and they're exactly like opiates like our morphine, codeine, all those things that people take to, in quotes, get high. So the body naturally produces things like dopamine, serotonin, things that help us to be calm. Now, the body, left to its own devices, manufactures these little vials of goodness in moderate amounts to get us through. However, when we start importing from foreign countries, taking maybe Mexican dope or Chilean crack into our body, the body says, okay, let's take a break. It stops producing its own natural drugs and comes to rely on the external source. And then, when there's a kind of mixed up foreign economy policy that leaves us depleted in the end without internal resources, our body adapts to the synthetic input by seizing its own private production. So in fancy terms, this is just simply called neuroadaptive model, and it poses once again that drugs inevitably throw off our homeostatic systems and make it so we must cross distant borders. Simply put, when there has become a dependence to this medication, it becomes very difficult for the body to go back to its normal form of producing those substances because the body has adapted to the external production of the drug. So we can see the physical consequences of abusing drugs. The second consequence effect has to do with our emotion. Drug abuse can lead to mental health issues, including depression, anxiety, and psychosis or madness. Research indicates that individuals with substance abuse disorders are more likely to experience co-occurring mental health issues. So it's very important to address mental health issues. Addiction or drug abuse does not solve mental health issues. Instead, it worsens it. And sometimes these both things are always often intertwined, because you find out that people go into abusing drugs because they are depressed, thinking they will get high and get better, but they get worse. So it's good to understand that taking drugs doesn't cure the depression, might make it worse, except they are prescribed medications for the mental health condition. And then finally, social consequences. We often see different news about celebrities who have gone through addiction, either to alcohol, to meth, to heroin, or to morphine, or to codeine or cocaine. And we see how this affects their job performance, how it strains their relationships even with their loved ones and with their fans. And it leads to social isolation at the end of the day because they have to be taken to rehabilitation centers. So drug abuse really affects us socially, and no one, of course, wants to be found around someone whose emotions are dangling based on what they take or not. In conclusion, drug abuse has severe physical, emotional, and social consequences, but recovery is possible. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, seek help. There are resources available and recovery is very, very much possible. Let's work together to support those affected by addiction and promote a culture of understanding and compassion. This message is brought to you from 3 Angels Present Truth Media. Thank you.